Hello, this is Caroline Mather for class 683-806. I'm currently recording first case study video for this class, where our goals are to discuss a current client that we're working with, diagnosis, age, all those aspects, and then go ahead and talk with the assessment tools utilized to pick an assessment and as well as functions of behavior. So I picked a client that is a little bit more challenging than for me, a typical early intervention child. So I picked a 13-year-old who is currently, whose current POC, plan of care, involves half days at our clinic and half days at school. So the client currently comes to our location from 8:30 to 11:30 and then takes the bus to school from like 11:45-ish to 3. They have an autism level 3 diagnosis with also with ADHD, but are not currently taking any medication. Melatonin is as needed, according to mom. There aren't any spiritual or religious or cultural concerns that affect treatment that we are aware of right now or that parents have noted. The client currently lives at home with their biological mom and then stepdad. Biological dad is not currently in the picture, but tends to come in and out at different times. There's currently a cousin that's living with them that's relatively new to his life in regards to being in his home. So that was within the last month as far as a change of home life. They are in sixth grade, so they're ending their elementary school career currently. Um, we chose for this client to use the ISCA and then transitioned into SBT programming. So we chose this due to age of the client. There was no major history of ABA services previously. They had early intervention when they were very young for about a year to 2 years, but it was very inconsistent. So, and then the history of aggression and isolation at school was such that we felt like SBT and initially the ISCA was our best source to identify different branches of areas that we could work on within our clinic setting, as well as defining what Hanley calls like R1 and R2 behaviors. So we were able to define those behaviors, R1 being aggressive behaviors, property destruction, hitting, punching, throwing objects, especially technology, switches, phones, iPads is very common. The school noted that he holds the records for the number of communication devices that they've had to replace. So with that said, I guess that could lead into the fact that SBT or the ISCA was also chosen due to communication abilities. The client is 13, as previously mentioned, and in our location, does not use the AAC device. And it seems very aversive to him in our location, but school says that it's used very consistently in their environment. In our clinic environment, single word mans are vocally are where we prompt, and then the AAC device remains present. Part of this is due to the fact that we're doing an SBT model and working through those contextually appropriate behaviors like CABS. So we started with a more simple functional communication response, and we've increased complexity, including the use of an iPad long-term into that programming. The client's size, they're relatively large sixth grader. I'm 5'9" and he comes up to my shoulders and probably weighs a little bit more than me. So though that played a role into it, we are at that time of day. So when he comes to our location, we have numerous younger friends in the building. So the ability to work through an extinction-based model was not appropriate as far as a behavior plan was concerned. The school environment is similar. Obviously, in elementary school, you're looking at 4K kindergarten kids with a history of and with this client's history of elopement, and aggression and property destruction. Extinction-based protocols were not going to be appropriate in either of our environments. So we were able to use the ISCA to gain information from home, um, get those R1 and R2 behaviors defined. Within that ISCA, we were also able to identify branches of work that we would focus on. So social was one area where school and home wanted to increase the client's ability to be in general education classroom, but in short term also just engage with peers. The client is relatively slow to pair up with. Once you're paired, you're besties, and it's amazing, but it definitely is a slower process. The other branch was daily living tasks. The client is very dependent on mom for all activities of daily living currently, is able to shower and do some of those things, but as far as routines in a timely manner, especially, that is not common. The client lives a very sedentary lifestyle, so there was parts of the daily living routine that we wanted to change up to encourage more gross motor activities, more exercise, to live a little bit healthier of a lifestyle. There's a very limited diet that the client eats. McDonald's McChickens are basically it. So increase in decrease in food sensitivities and increase in food exploration goals was also on the parents list. We also had just the increase in academic goals or duration of time spent in academic goals as the third branch. So all this information was able to be gathered by the ISCA. Frequency of problem behaviors in school and at home were gathered. This showed that at least daily, typically, there was at least an instance of aggression at school and at home. We've served this client for a while, so from that ISCA, it has decreased significantly, but on the initial intake assessment, that was what we were told. So the functions of behavior tend to be access to items, denied, being told no, transitioning away from preferred activities, all typically result in a aggressive or property destruction or verbal protest of some sort upon this ISCA. So that was another reason that we chose this route of SBT, is the fact that gaining access to their preferred items was the main function of problem behavior via parent report. And due to size and limited communication abilities, we felt that a omnibus manned or a functional communication response that could gain access to a variety of reinforcers, or as Hanley calls it, and as we call it in our clinic currently, into their HRE, happy, relaxed, and engaged state, that it would be a better option than working through extinction of any kind. So that played the function of gaining access to tangible items was a big key. At first, it was noted that adult interaction was not reinforcing. Once services began and once we had paired up with the client, it was noticed that adult interactions were very much so appreciated. Lots of touching and pointing when they were watching the show or drawing something or building Legos occurred. Increase in response effort by requesting those items or transitioning away to new items were definitely met with some resistance, but the client clearly wanted the engagement of those around him during those times, especially in a small setting. Our programming, I guess we can talk about programming later. So I believe that checks off the initial parts of this first case study. I have lots of more information to give, but I believe that the objective of this portion was just to discuss the assessment and the rationale for why those assessments were chosen, and then describe the assessment results and the functions of behavior. So I guess to summarize it all, access to tangibles was noted as a function of most of the problem behaviors that occurred. The assessment we did an initial assessment with using the ISCA to then gain information on the functional skills that we would teach, and also reinforcers. I guess I didn't mention that earlier. It also gave us information related to the reinforcers that were most preferred, which allowed us to make a better HRE environment for the client. We moved into that SBT assessment and data collection method rapidly following that initial ISCA. And yeah, I believe that is all. It is Sunday, October 13th at 7:55. And again, this is Caroline Mather for class 683-806.